Good evening. I will help you. That is all I have come to do. Not to argue with your body, not to wrestle with a condition, but to stand by you in consciousness until the storm remembers that it has no law to sustain it. Words are only auxiliaries. Words sometimes are an interference. So let us begin with the quiet that precedes words. Be still and know that I am God. Do you feel that? I will help you. Before you pray, before you form a single sentence or call a single name, locate the I that is asking. The whole quality of your prayer will be determined by where you stand when you say I. If the I that prays is the body, prayer is strain, anxiety dressed up as piety. If the I that prays is consciousness, a prayer becomes beholding, and beholding becomes fulfillment. Do you see? This is not a criticism of you, it is a direction. Shift the standpoint, and the same words that once strained you will fall away, or if they remain, they will be transparent and harmless. The body reports, consciousness decides. A thermometer reports, it does not legislate climate. Eyes report a horizon where parallel tracks converge. No one pulls up the rails to correct the vision. So too, the body comes with a tale of pain or relief, of pulse or pressure, but the eye of you is not a pulsing, pressurized object. The eye of you is awareness, the beholder. The life is more than meat, and the body more than raiment. Do you follow that? The report is not authority. The report is data to awareness. When I consent to be the body, I kneel to the report and call it law. When I stand as consciousness, I receive the report and then turn to the one who is law. If then you call me and say, I hurt, you will find my speech very brief. My conversation is usually limited to, I will help you. Why? Because words are only auxiliaries. In the first minute, a flood of statements may satisfy the mind's thirst for movement, but it often muddies the well. Be still, the psalmist said, not be busy. There is a place for instruction, and we are in it now, but in the act of healing, too many words can be interference. If you ask bread, do not let me offer stones of talk. Let me offer presence. Let me stand where the eye of you is the eye of me, and I and the Father are one. Then we can be silent together, and the silence will speak. Do not accept us because it is beautifully phrased or because the Scripture adorns it. We measure it by fruitage, by your life experience. By their fruits ye shall know them. If, as you practice locating the I, the strain leaves your prayer, if the fear thins and the edge is smooth, if conditions yield without fanfare, then there is no debate. You have found the right door. If nothing changes but your excitement, you may only have entertained yourself with religious music. We are not here for an emotional jag. We are here for God realized, God appearing as individual being, God present as the I that prays. So tonight, before you pray, sit down within yourself and ask, who is saying I? Is it the flesh that profits nothing or the spirit that quickens? Is it the patient in a room or the awareness that fills the room? Hear softly the voice that answered Jesus, this is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Let that sentence settle not on a figure 2,000 years ago, but upon the eye that now beholds. Take 3 breaths, if you must, then drop the words until only that recognition remains. The body may continue to report. Let it. The decision of reality belongs to the eye that knows. And when at last you speak, let it be simple, Father, thou art here. Or say nothing at all and let the knowing pray. Now let us uncover the hidden shift. 2 standpoints present themselves every time you say I. One says, I am a body that hurts. I must get God to come fix this. The other says, I am consciousness aware of God. I behold. There is no condemnation in naming these. One is the ordinary training of the senses. The other is the grace of awakening. It is the spirit that quickeneth, the flesh profiteth nothing. Do you see, whichever eye you accept, that becomes the limit of what you can accept as real. If the eye is body, prayer begins after the verdict has been read. You have already granted reality, law, and authority to the report. The pulse speaks, and you bow. The image on the screen appears, and you agree. Amen. The frightened heart calls heaven to change, earth never questioning that the arm of flesh has become lawgiver. This makes prayer a struggle. Why? Because you are trying to move a mountain you just cemented in place with your own consent. You ask a distant God to come to a real problem and perform a real correction on a real condition in a real body. That is back-breaking work for the mind, and it fatigues the soul. Do you follow that? You go to God after you have enthroned the senses. You plead from effect to cause, but you plead as effect, and effect has no authority. If the eye is consciousness, the field changes. You have not denied the report. You have located it. You have placed it where it belongs as information to awareness, not identity and not law. The report is a thermometer in the room of your attention. It is not climate, not decree. We walk by faith, not by sight. Faith here is not optimism. It is recognition of source. Consciousness knows God before it knows condition. In Him we live and move and have our being. Then the body speech arrives inside that knowing, and it is heard as a report, not a verdict. Like the rope seen as a snake, the heart leaps. Yes, but the beholder asks, what am I beholding? If it is snake, it must be law maintained. If it is rope, the fear has no law. The eye that is consciousness waits one instant longer, long enough for truth to be consulted. Harmony is, life is, God is. Do you see the difference? This is not indifference to human need. It is refusal to crown the senses as final authority. Our Master walked into houses of sorrow and did not enthrone the report. To Jairus he said, be not afraid, only believe. And concerning the girl, the maid is not dead, but sleepeth. He did not rebuke the weeping, he displaced the verdict. At Lazarus' tomb, he did not labor to install life in a dead man. He stood as consciousness of the Father. Father, I thank thee that thou hast heard me. Then life appeared as Lazarus. Do you follow that? It is not denial of the tear on the cheek. It is denial that the tear is law. So the practical work is simple and rigorous. When the body speaks, notice which eye jumps to answer. If it is the body eye, it will rush to remedy or to rehearsing fears. It will collect affirmations as crutches. It will plead, drop it. Be still one moment longer. Let the eye of you stand as beholding awareness. Whisper within, if you must, the kingdom of God is within you, or I and the Father are one. Then listen. In that listening, the report is reduced to its proper stature, and the sense of struggle thins out of prayer. The eye you accept determines what you can accept as real. If you are body, reality is whatever nerves announce. If you are consciousness, reality is whatever God is, and the nerves translate afterward. Set your affection on things above, not on things on the earth, not as pious denial, but as right placement of authority. Then, when the body says, I hurt, you may answer, I hear you, but the eye that hears is not hurt. Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine. From there, prayer ceases to be begging and becomes beholding and beholding fulfillment. Now we take up the first of the two words around which our work is built, as. God appearing as individual being. You see? Not God somewhere else, not God later, not God summoned by phrases, but God the invisible showing forth as the visible you. I and the Father are one. That is not poetry. It is identity. It is the disclosure that the I of you is not a private, apart from God ego, but the very life of God individualized. When the Master said, "He that hath seen me hath seen the Father," he revealed a principle, not a privilege. God, the invisible, appearing as Son, the visible. This is the word as. Take this slowly. If God is manifest as individual being, then in the moment you say I, you are naming God's own self-expression, not deity. Remote and human you separate. One life, one being, one I appearing as many forms as the ocean appears as wave. As light appears as beam, so God appears as you. Do you follow that? Then health is not a commodity shipped from heaven to body. Health is the nature of God revealing itself as the wholeness of being. Wholeness is not imported, it is revealed. The shade does not manufacture sunlight, it only hides it. Lift the shade, light was and is, so with prayer. You are not manufacturing harmony. You are consenting to its appearing as the very I that you are. Now compare this with the ordinary posture of prayer, begging a distant deity to come, to move, to do. That posture makes two, a needy mortal here and a reluctant or delayed God there. Then you craft words to bridge a gap that does not exist. Words then become interference. You try to persuade God to be God. Do you see the futility? Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine. If that is truth, then prayer cannot be an attempt to make God generous. It is the quiet recognition that God is already appearing as I. In that recognition, tones lower, breathing eases, struggle thins, the ask softens into a beholding, Father, thou art being I now. To say God appears as you is not to flatter a human personality or to canonize flesh. The flesh profiteth nothing. We are not enthroning a person, we are recognizing presence where person seems. This is why the healing never touches a sick mortal. The healing is the recognition of sonship. This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Hear that within, not as a memory of Jordan's banks 2 millennia ago, but as the voice addressing the I of you this instant. Let that sentence rest where pain shouts, where fear trembles, and notice what happens. The report begins to lose its law when the Son is recognized. The Father's pleasure is health. The Father's nature is wholeness. The Father's appearing as you is harmony unlabored. In practice, this means that when you or another ask for help, you do not start by instructing God, and you do not start by diagnosing man. You begin at identity. God is appearing as this I. The very life that is God is the life of this being. The very mind that is God is the intelligence of this being. The very substance that is God is the substance of this being. Do you feel the shift? You are not trying to lift a condition up to God. You are letting God be God as the only I present. Often I say nothing outwardly, but I will help you. And then within I stand in this word as until it declares itself. Sometimes a phrase will rise, I and the Father are one, or he that hath seen me hath seen the Father, and then silence. In that silence the shade lifts. God was and is and appears. You may ask, how will I know I am standing rightly in this word as? By your life experience, by the fruitage. If requests become lighter, if help comes naturally without argument, if conditions yield without the fever of affirming, then you are no longer pleading from separation, you are recognizing presence. This is the beginning of healing. Not God coming to you, but God appearing as you. Let that be your first consent before you pray. Then prayer is no longer a project, it is recognition, and recognition is fulfillment. Do you see? Now we come to the second word, is. If, as reveals, God appearing as individual being, is settles the question of time and distance. Prayer is not creation, it is realization of what already is. Do you see? We are never trying to heal somebody, never trying to bring God to a scene, never trying to force harmony into a reluctant hour. We are living in the realization of is. Harmony is. Life is. Love is. Abundance is. Omnipresence is. I am. Take the simplest schoolroom illustration. You are not trying to make 2 times 2 become 4. No argument produces it. No pleading moves it from 3 to 4. It is 4. The mind that tries to get it to be 4 is the only mind suffering. When the fact is recognized, the strain drops, the pencil moves, and the problem is solved at once by a truth that was present before the first figure was written. Do you follow that? So with God, we do not try to persuade life to be life or love to be love. We do not exert will to coax omnipresence into our room. I am that I am. The name is isness. Before Abraham was, I am. The tense is forever. It is finished. The work is complete. Prayer, then, is the beholder consenting to what already is. Strain enters the moment we assume a creative burden. We look at a condition and begin pushing. We push with words. We push with effort. We push with desperation dressed in holy language. That is why words sometimes are an interference. You are trying to change a picture on the screen instead of looking to the light that throws it. If the real is an appearance of discord, do not wrestle the shadows. Resist not evil. Turn quietly, decisively to is. The kingdom never arrives. The kingdom is. The kingdom of God is within you. And when it is honored, the picture adjusts without struggle because we have ceased trying to make reality and have yielded to reality itself. This is not passivity. It is exact spiritual action. The discipline is interior. Stand by in consciousness until the is felt as fact. Often that requires that we say very little. My conversation is usually limited to, I will help you, and then within I lean into is, Father, thou art, not Father, be, Father, thou art. I wait there. I do not time it. I lose time in it. Presently the sense of trying softens, the inward breath lengthens, and a quiet certainty steals in not excitement, not emotion, certainty. Then, without effort, what seemed a problem loses its law because it never had any in the is of God. Let this become your daily rhythm. As you wake, God is. As you look at the day's needs, provision is. As you step into the office, order is. If the body speaks, life is. If fear whispers, love is. If loneliness suggests separation, omnipresence is, I am. Not as slogans to batter thought, but as acknowledgments of what already fills the room you call consciousness. Thy word is truth. The truth of any scene is found not in the report, but in the word. That is, when the word is felt, the report is seen through, like the snake that was only a rope in dim light. The heart had leapt, yes, but was there ever a serpent to charm or kill? No. Thee is dissolved it, because it never was. Do not wait for a change to grant you permission to know is. Know is, and watch the unnecessary waiting end. If you find yourself pressing, stop, drop it. Be still, and know that I am God. Sit 1 minute longer than your habits demand. In that unhurried consent, Creation drops away and realization takes its place. Then, whether words follow or not, the ministry is done not by might nor by power, but by my Spirit. The Spirit does not arrive, the Spirit is. And where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Not will be, there is. So when you pray, do not set out to make a universe. Recognize one. Do not manufacture harmony. Witness it. Do not import God. Uncover God. Let as and is meet in you, God appearing as you now. Then prayer ceases to be a project and becomes a gaze. And in that gaze, fruitage comes, naturally, quietly, inevitably, because reality was never waiting, only we were. Do you see? There comes a familiar hour, a spasm of pain, a diagnosis announced with clinical certainty, a wave of fatigue that steals the knees, and before we have drawn a full breath, the mind says, I am sick. Do you see the speed of that? The report arrives, and at once the eye is fastened to it like a tag pinned to a garment. In that instant, the thermometer has been crowned as climate, the shadow has been ordained as power. Here is where your practice lives. The body reports, it does not decree. The I that you are is not the signal, it is the awareness receiving the signal. Judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. The Master gave you an exact instruction for this very minute. Appearance is the report. Righteous judgment is the recognition of source. The body can transmit sensation and history, what seemed to be yesterday, what seems to be now, but it cannot define identity, and it cannot legislate law. The arm of flesh is the Hebrew phrase for that which boasts a strength it does not possess. Treat the bodily report exactly as that. An arm of flesh, a messenger without authority, information to consciousness, not identity and not law. Do you follow that? Here is the pivot. Turn your gaze inwardly, back of the eye. By that I mean, cease staring at the figure on the screen and attend to the light that makes any figure visible. Consciousness is the light. God is the source. Back of the eye is the beholder's quiet. In that quiet, let a simple dialogue arise, not argument, not denial, a placing of things in their right order. This is a report, not a law. This is appearance, not presence. Presence is God. Presence is. Then, without hurry, let is, fill the room you call attention. Life is. Wholeness is. I am in God, and God appears as I. Do you see? If a name has been spoken over the report, if charts have been written and prognosis pronounced, do not quarrel with ink. Give not a thought to the person or the condition. Give thought to source. Whisper if words are needed, while we look not at the things which are seen, but at the things which are not seen. And then look, not with effort, with consent. Turn from the name of the thing to the name above all names, I am that I am, until the sense of a personal sufferer loosens and the knowing returns. The I that hears this report is not the body reporting. The I is awareness, and awareness is one with God. I and the Father are one. Let that sentence rest back of the eye until it glows where fear flutters. In practical terms, when the pain pricks and the reflex shouts, I am sick, pause one breath longer than habit. Sit if you can. Stand within if you cannot sit. Refuse the first leap to fix or to flood the mind with phrases. Remember, words are only auxiliaries. Place the report where it belongs, information to consciousness, and then let consciousness consult God. Be still and know that I am God. In that stillness, the clamor will try to reclaim you. Do not wrestle. Repeat your simple placement. This is a report, not a law. This is appearance, not presence. Presence is, then wait, receptive. Not timing it, losing time in it. Presently the sting loses its edict, because it never had any in the is of God. You may prove this also in the small hours, the dull ache, the busy pulse, the weariness that whispers, I cannot. Meet each as you would a doorbell, answered, not adopted. Open the door of awareness and look back of the eye. Set your affection on things above, not on things on the earth. Not as pious refusal to feel, but as right placement of authority. Above does not mean far, it means source. In that elevation, identity is seen again. This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Let that voice fall on the eye that hears the report. Identity is settled. The report is reduced to its proper size. How will you know you have made the pivot? By quiet, by the absence of strain, by the soft certainty that rises in place of argument. Often the bodily scene will conform, often quickly. But even before the outer settles, you will notice that the inner panic has no seat to sit in. Then you have separated report from reality. Then the healer in you, God appearing as individual being, has taken the case. Do you see? Now that you have learned to separate report from reality, let us be precise about what you are refusing to enthrone. The enemy is not tissue. The adversary is not a person. The culprit is not heredity, environment, or the calendar. Error is impersonal suggestion, the universal mesmerism that says there are two powers, one of spirit and one of matter. You see, the body can no more manufacture a law than a thermometer can legislate summer. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, and if you keep wrestling flesh, you are fighting shadows and exhausting yourself. The arm of flesh always boasts, but it has no power to sustain its boast. Mesmerism is the ancient habit of consenting to appearances as causes. It is the snake in the rope. In dim light, the rope looks alive, the heart races, the muscles tense, but there is no serpent to kill, no venom to antidote. It is the non-existent white poodle you stepped over that wasn't there. Fear gives the illusion its seeming reality. When you panic, you lend electricity to the picture on the screen and then try to beat the screen into changing. Judge not according to the appearance. Judge righteous judgment. Back of the appearance back of the fright is nothing claiming somethingness. Personalization is the glue that hardens the picture. The moment you say, my pain, my disease, my family's pattern, you have enthroned a private law and drafted your prayer into negotiation with matter. Then prayer becomes commerce. How do I bargain with atoms to behave? How do I persuade nerves to relent? You have conceded that a second power is present. You are trying to move a mountain you yourself made legal by calling it yours. Drop it. Call no man your father upon the earth, meaning do not trace cause through flesh. The flesh profiteth nothing. Give not a thought to the person or the condition. Give thought to presence. Do you follow that? Depersonalization is not coldness. It is compassion that refuses to accuse a brother or a self. When you look at your friend and see a sufferer with a personal condition, you add weight to a burden that was never theirs. When you look and see hypnotism merely a claim, a suggestion without law, you free them from your judgment and yourself from futility. The Master spoke to winds and waves. He did not interrogate lungs. He addressed the pretense of power, peace be still, and pretense obeyed, because there was no second law to resist him. Get thee behind me, Satan, is not railing at a person. It is dismissing suggestion. In the crisis moment, keep one directive. Drop the person and the condition as power. Keep consciousness on presence. If the call comes at midnight, do not take the bait of details. My conversation is usually limited to, I will help you. Then, within, Father, thou art. I do not argue with pain. I do not diagnose. I let the is of God fill awareness until the room of consciousness is too full of light to project a serpent on the rope. If a name of disease clamors, I answer it with no name at all, but I am that I am. If fear shouts, I do not wrestle. Resist not evil. I stand and see the salvation of the Lord, the already present law of harmony, until the shouting finds nothing to grip. How will you know you have truly depersonalized? By the fruitage. The inward tone shifts from urgency to authority. The pity that sinks becomes love that sees. Often the outer changes quickly because you have ceased feeding the shadow with your consent. But even before change appears, you will notice that fear has lost its throne. It floats unseated in a room it does not own. That is your sign. The claim was only claim. The arm of flesh was only arm. Nothingness was merely saying, I am something, and you would not agree. So keep the lexicon clear in your heart. Hypnotism, not person. Suggestion, not substance. Arm of flesh, not law. Rope, not snake. White poodle, not presence. And in every such seeing, let one sentence rest back of the eye. I and the Father are one. In that oneness, where is a second power to oppose? Nowhere. And from that nowhere, the seeming hold breaks, because there was no hand to hold and no chain to bind. Do you see? Now we must speak plainly about affirmations. I know the comfort they seem to give. I know the habit. The body cries out, and the mouth rushes in with, I am whole, I am strong, I am fearless, while the hidden meaning is, this body is broken, and I must talk it into mending. Do you see? The sentence may be correct in the letter, but the standpoint is still, I am a body trying to become what I am not. That inner contradiction guarantees strain. You are trying to staple truth onto a report you have already enthroned as law. Words then become interference. Words are only auxiliaries, and many times words are an interference because they antagonize the sufferer or inflate the speaker. You know this by experience. In the hour of fear, a well-meaning friend chirps, there are no accidents in divine mind, and your heart sinks. The words, however true in letter, land as accusation you shouldn't feel as you feel. That is not healing. That is adding shame to pain. On the other side, we may congratulate ourselves on our quick truth-telling. We declared the word, and the subtle ego swells even as the condition remains. One is cruelty dressed as wisdom, the other is vanity dressed as ministry. Neither heals. Our Master named the condition of lips without life. This people honoreth me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. The letter is the mental declaration, spirit is the inner impartation. The letter says, I am whole, and waits for echo. Spirit knows, I am that, I am in rests. The letter tries to install reality, spirit witnesses what already is. Not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. Do you follow that? When the heart is far, when the standpoint is body pleading to spirit, every syllable labors, and fatigue arrives in holy phrases. When the heart is near, when the eye is recognized as God appearing as individual being, often there are no words at all, and fruitage follows. This is why my conversation is usually limited to I will help you. Not because there is nothing to say, but because presence must say it, or it is better left unsaid. Let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay. Few words, clean words, and then silence in which consciousness is convinced. The mouth can be persuaded. It will recite any creed if you coach it, but only spirit persuades consciousness, and consciousness realized heals. Do you see? You are not talking at a condition. You are not cajoling nerves. You are recognizing God's being as the only being present, and in that recognition, the picture on the screen loses its power to frighten. If you must begin with words, let them prime the pump and then stop. Let the letter open the gate, then let spirit flow. Whisper within, Father, thou art, not Father be. Or, I and the Father are one, not I and the problem are two. Then drop the sentence and listen. Be still and know that I am God. In that stillness, watch the inward weather change, the push subside. A quiet authority, sober, unexcited, announces itself. That is Spirit's impartation that heals. If no such shift arrives, do not increase the volume. Do not add syllables like sandbags against a rising river. Sit one breath longer than habit. Drop it. Return to as and is. God appears as I. God is, you ask. How shall I know I have moved from letter to spirit? By your life experience, by the fruitage. If, after your speaking, the atmosphere is tender and fearless, and the burden lightens whether or not the symptom has yet yielded, you have touched present. If, after many declarations, there is hurry, pride, or discouragement, you have been operating the mouth while the heart was far. Do not condemn yourself. Just correct the standpoint. Words do not heal. Consciousness realized heals, and words may or may not follow. When the realization is present, even a single phrase, this is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased, spoken within, not at, undoes the pretense. And when realization is absent, 1,000 phrases cannot manufacture God. It is the Spirit that quickeneth, the flesh profiteth nothing. Do you see? Let truth be recognized, not recited at shadows. Then the shadows have no law, and harmony, already present, appears. When the call comes midnight or noon, do not gather phrases as if arming for a debate. Let the voice that answers be a quiet hand laid upon the shoulder. My conversation is usually limited to, I will help you. You see? Not a sermon, not an analysis, not a recital of spiritual laws aimed at a frightened ear. I will help you. Then you hang up the telephone or you set down the letter and you begin the only ministry that heals. You stand by in consciousness until presence announces itself. Why so little speech? Because speaking at appearances keeps attention on appearances. It is like shouting instructions to the figure on the screen while forgetting the light in the projector. The more you talk to a picture, the more real the picture seems. But silence, reverent, alert, God acknowledging silence, turns you from the picture to the light. Be still and know that I am God. This is not passivity. It is the most exact spiritual action. In that stillness, attention detaches from the narrative of trouble and rests in the only fact, one presence, one power, one life. Then the atmosphere alters. The room that a moment ago felt crowded with fear becomes, without performance or display, quietly inhabited by God. The inner posture is simple, and it is everything. Give not a thought to the person or the condition. Drop them as powers. Within, acknowledge, Father, thou art, not Father, be, Father, thou art. One presence fills this I that seems here, and that I that seems there. I and the Father are one, God appearing as individual being. Remain there. Do not time it. Lose time in it. Let the sense of trying ebb. Let the breath loosen. If a phrase rises, let it be placed, not hurled. This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Hear it back of the I, and let it address the I of the one who asked help. When that sentence glows, you have ministered more than 1,000 entreaties could. There is negative guidance to observe for the sake of love. Never say to the hurting, this is for the best, or there are no accidents in divine mind, or you must have attracted this lesson. Those are barbs disguised as wisdom. They accuse the sufferer while flattering the speaker. The Master did not lay burdens on the weary. He said, come unto me, and I will give you rest. Let your outer word be comfort without lecture. I will help you. Let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay. You may sit beside, you may listen, you may place a glass of water in a trembling hand. Tenderness of the human sense is not denied, but you do not grant authority to the report by repeating it, and you do not bruise the reed by rebuking it with cliches. Compassion without concession, that is your standard. Hold to this. You can be utterly gentle outwardly and utterly uncompromising inwardly. Weep with them that weep. Yes, your heart may moisten in the presence of sorrow, but within you remain unmoved from is. You do not descend into two powers. You do not argue with pain or bargain with time. You let the Christ judge righteous judgment. And judging thus, you discover that comfort flows in forms suited to the hour, a hush, a loosening in the chest, a phone call that arrives at the right minute, a night that passes quietly, not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. I recall an evening when a mother's voice, tight with fear, asked help for her child. I said, only I will help you. I did not take the tour of symptoms. I turned within to the one presence, the one life, until the clamor ceased in me and a still word rose, simple and authoritative. Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine. Nothing else was spoken. Before dawn, her second call came soft. The storm in that little room had passed. Do you see? Not words about God spoken at a scene, but God realized as the only scene. By your life experience, by the fruitage, you will prove this. Keep your ministry clean, few words, much presence. Refuse the temptation to decorate the air with truths the heart has not yet realized. Stand by in consciousness until the invisible announces itself as the only fact present. Then, if words come, they are not yours. They are the overflow of what is. And if words do not come, nothing is lacking, because the healing agency is never the syllable, but the spirit that quickeneth, I will help you. Then silence within. In that holy quiet, the arm of flesh drops its boasting, and harmony already present appears. Do you follow that? Let us make this practical. Practice is the bridge from hearing to being, from the letter on your lips to the spirit in your bone. You begin with conscious knowing, priming the pump, and you end with listening, the receptive heart in which truth is imparted, not manufactured. Do you see? The sequence is as simple as breathing, but it is not a lazy man's work. It is devotion, steady, uncluttered, and exact. Upon waking, before the foot touches the floor or the hand finds a device, take your minute. Consciously know, Father, thou art, not Father, be. Father, thou art. Harmony is. Life is. Love is. Omnipresence is. I am. God is appearing as my being. I and the Father are one. Say it as you might strike a tuning fork, not to shout down a room, but to give yourself a pitch. Then stop. Be still. And know that I am God. Listen back of the eye. Let the breath loosen. You are not creating truth. You are consenting to is presently a quiet certainty, unexcited, unforced, announces itself. Often in that hush, a simple line will rise. This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Hear it addressed to the I that you are. When it glows, you have moved from declared truth to received truth. Do you follow that? Carry this into the first touch point of the day, your meal. Pause before the bite. Consciously know. Substance is spirit. Give us this day our daily bread is not a plea for later. It is acknowledgement now. God is appearing as nourishment, as order, as ease in this body that is not cause, but instrument. Harmony is. Then drop the sentence and listen one moment. In that inner nod, you shift the locus of control from molecules to presence. You will find digestion unstrained and the mind unhurried because you have placed authority where it belongs. Before money decisions, writing a check, opening a statement, entering a meeting, stop. Consciously know abundance is. Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine. God is appearing as intelligence, as timing, as right measure in this transaction. I am not a body made anxious by numbers. I am awareness beholding God's activity. Then be still. Let a single idea present itself without pressure. Often it is astonishingly ordinary. Call this person, wait one day, send that note, and yet it carries the weight of peace. By your life experience, by the fruitage, you will see that money troubles yield not to anxiety, but to realized oneness. All through the day, practice micro pauses. An email disturbs, a headline shouts, a pain pricks. One breath. Consciously know, presence is, harmony is. God is appearing as my being. Then listen. Do not fill the gap with heroic sentences. Let the listening ear find the undersong of is. This is how you pray without ceasing, not by constant speech, but by continual recognition followed by receptivity. Words are only auxiliaries. Let them prime the pump, then let the well flow. When evening draws down, close the ledger of the day. Sit quietly and gather the wandering fragments of thought. Consciously know, in Him we live and move and have our being. Place every face and fact of the day in that sentence. Forgive debts, release credits, drop person, and condition as power. Whisper within for each one who crossed your path. This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Then stop. Rest in the felt isness of God, keeping the night watch. He giveth His beloved sleep. Allow the last awareness before sleep to be not problem and plan, but presence. Now hear me. This is not passivity. This is exact spiritual action. It takes discipline to halt the reflex, to fix, to stand one breath longer than habit, to move from talking at truth to being taught by truth. Some days your conscious knowing will feel dry. Prime the pump anyway. Harmony is, life is, God is appearing as my being. Then be still. If nothing seems to come, do not force. Sit one breath longer. Tomorrow again. This persistence is the devotion by which you will wake one morning to discover that the shift has completed itself. Realization arrives before words. Guidance appears before need, and healing occurs not as an event you stage, but as fruitage of a standpoint you have made your dwelling. In this way, practice matures you from letter to spirit. The letter acknowledges, the spirit imparts. The letter states, the spirit substantiates. When the impartation is present, healing is natural because you are not mending shadows. You are living in is. Do you see? Keep to your touch points, waking, meals, money, evening, and let every interruption become an invitation to as and is, few words, much listening. And by your life experience, by the fruitage, you will know that you have changed standpoint, not by excitement, but by harmony appearing where effort used to live. Now we must come to the only safe test in spiritual work, fruitage. Not how stirred you feel, not the visions you think you saw, not the intensity of your voices in prayer. By their fruits ye shall know them. Do you see? The kingdom does not advertise itself with fireworks. It announces itself with quiet law harmony, appearing where struggle used to live. The peace of God, which passeth all understanding, does not push. It settles. So let us be exact. Fruitage is the appearance of practical harmony in the affairs of daily life. You will recognize it by fewer alarms, quicker solutions, and a steadiness that no longer careens from up to down. Here are indicators you can observe without self-flattery. Fear loosens more quickly after the first sting. You find that one breath longer than habit opens a window, and the panic has nothing to grip. Decisions come with less argument. Right ideas present themselves without strain, and they carry peace, not pressure. Relationships soften. The sharp retort yields to a soft answer, turneth away wrath. Money matters. Stop shouting. Timing improves. Legitimacy replaces hustle. The body ceases to dictate the weather of your soul. Symptoms no longer enthrone themselves as law because you do not consent to two powers. You notice, almost with surprise, that problems which once required a campaign yield to a few minutes of quiet recognition, AS and IS, and then you are about your day. That is fruitage. Use conditional honesty. If your problems are quickly and easily being solved, if harmony appears without your pushing, realization is present. If you must labor, insist, rehearse phrases, and still the ground does not move, you have not yet changed standpoint. Do not condemn yourself. Correct the premise. Ask at once, where am I standing when I say I? Am I a body pleading with spirit, or am I consciousness beholding God appearing as individual being? Am I trying to make reality, or am I consenting to what is? If you discover you have been talking at the picture on the screen, stop, drop it, return to is. Father, thou art, I and the Father are one. Then wait until the quiet replaces the push. Fruitage will follow that quiet. Let me warn you tenderly about self-deception. Spiritual excitement can be an emotional jag. It feels holy. It is actually nervous. It surges for a few days, and then the same old fear returns, wearing a new name. That is not fruit. That is weather. The snake in the rope will keep frightening you until you learn to check the light, not strike at shadows. Visions, tears, intensities, these may pass through. Do not make a religion of them. This people honoreth me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. Bring the heart near by returning to the one premise. God is, and God is appearing as I. When that is realized, the atmosphere of your life alters, and the alteration shows itself in outcomes. Encourage yourself with patience, but do not compromise. There is therefore now no condemnation to them which are in Christ Jesus. If today the fruit is small, give thanks for small fruit and practice again. Keep your ledger honest. Less fear, faster release, fewer ups and downs, more ease without display. Note, too, the quieting of the impulse to lecture others. My conversation is usually limited to, I will help you. That restraint itself is fruitage, because it signals that you trust presence more than performance. And as days gather, you will find a cumulative law at work, solutions arriving before problems are named, rest appearing before sleep, and a humility that no longer claims authorship of anything good. Not I, but Christ liveth my life. So test your work by your life experience, by the fruitage. If the fruit is there, proceed in gratitude. If it is not, do not add words, change the standpoint. Replace hurry with recognition, effort with impartation, argument with the simple radiance of, this is my beloved Son in whom I am well pleased. In that light, the arm of flesh has nothing to boast of, and harmony already present shows forth as event, supply, health, peace. You see, verification is never in excitement, it is in is. Let us gather this into one clear pivot. You can carry into midnight or morning, into corridors of hospitals or the silence of your room before you pray. Change the standpoint of I. Do you see? If the I that prays is the body taking counsel with its sensations, prayer becomes negotiation with shadows. If the I that prays is God consciousness, prayer becomes recognition of what is. The quality of your prayer is determined by where you stand when you say I. Stand right, and help flows as fruitage. Stand wrong, and your syllables, however noble, fall back into your own lap. The infinite way is grounded in two words, and with them we end as we began, as God appearing as individual being, is the ever-present reality not waiting to be manufactured. God the invisible appears as Son the visible. The Father is the life of the Son. I and the Father are one. You are not summoning God from distance. You are consenting to God's own self-announcement as you. Harmony is, life is, love is, omnipresence I am. You are not trying to make 2x 2 4. You are recognizing that it is 4. Do you follow that? In the hour of crisis, let this be precise. When the body reports pain, pressure, fatigue, separate the report from reality and separate the reporter from I. The body is an instrument reporting to consciousness. It is not the lawgiver, not identity, not cause. Give not a thought to the person or the condition. Attend to presence. Do not fight the report, drop it as power. Acknowledge within, Father, thou art. God is appearing as this I. Therefore, the only law present is the law of God. Be still and know that I am God. That stillness is not a pause between efforts. It is the spiritual act in which hypnotism loses its audience. The snake in the rope cannot frighten a consciousness bathed in light. If you find words gathering on your tongue, let them be few and true. Words are only auxiliaries. Often words are an interference. My conversation is usually limited to, I will help you. Then silence, alert, tender, uncompromising, until the impartation arrives. You will know it by its unexcited authority. It is the spirit that quickeneth, the flesh profiteth nothing. When the impartation is present, a single inward sentence, this is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Place back of the I undoes the pretense. Place it for yourself. Place it for the one calling. Hear it until it glows. That is A as realized within I as. That is prayer. Carry this into the simple weave of your days. Practice at waking, at meals, at money, at night. Prime the pump, Father, thou art. Harmony is. I and the Father are one. And then listen. Let words grow fewer. Let receptivity grow greater. Give not a thought to appearances as powers. Judge not according to the appearance. Judge righteous judgment. If you forget and descend into two powers, do not condemn yourself. Correct the standpoint and begin again. This is devotion, not strain. This is the yoke that is easy because it does not drag shadows. It beholds reality. And measure your work by the only measure that protects you from illusion, by your life experience, by the fruitage. If problems are quickly and quietly yielding, if love grows less demonstrative and more steady, if fear loses its throne and decisions carry peace, the standpoint has changed. If not, do not add speeches, change the I, return to AS and IS. Let the heart come near. Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine. So I leave you with this simple commissioning. Before you pray, change the standpoint of I. Stand as God consciousness, God appearing as individual being, resting in present isness. Then prayer is not struggle, it is recognition. Few words, much presence. Quiet practice daily. Yourself, for each one who crosses your path, let the inward benediction seal your seeing. This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. In that light, the arm of flesh has nothing to boast of, and harmony already present appears. Do you see?